Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome to the December 2021 channel update. If you haven't seen these formats before, this is basically a 10 or 15 minute ramble where I share a little bit of the numbers behind the channel, how it's been doing, then talk a little bit about what kind of things have been going on, and then talk a little bit more about what I hope to do over the course of the next month or two with the channel, what kind of new things will be coming and what we're going to try to move forward into. So let's get started and talk a little bit about how the channel's been doing over the past month and a half. Now, I guess the good way to characterize this would be kind of as happy times. It's really been a fun period on the channel, and it's probably its period of strongest growth over the entire time we've been doing it. When we were last together in October, we missed the November update, the channel was getting about 13,500 views per month, and now it's up to about 26,000. So almost doubling over the course of that month and a half. Likewise, watch time was about 1.4 thousand hours, and now it's up to about 2.4 thousand hours. I mean, still tiny numbers in the scope of a whole YouTube universe. Of course, is infinitesimally small, again, as we'll constantly refer to it, but less infinitesimally small than it was a month and a half ago. So that's kind of cool. And then, of course, we crossed the magical 1,000 subscriber mark, which was a great thrill. Right about November 10th, a little bit over a month ago. So last time we were together, we had 893 subs, and now it's 1,294 as I make this video. So thank you, as always, to the new subscribers. About 400 new subscribers over the course of the past month and a month or so. Thank you so much to everybody. It's been fun reading new people's comments and stuff like that. As I mentioned on all of these, that for me is has been the biggest surprise and the thing I probably enjoy the most. I mean, love to read people's comments, their thoughts on the games, their feedback on what kind of things are going on and stuff like that. I think I mean, every once in a while you get one that's kind of like, dude, what are you doing? But I mean, 99% of the comments have been really supportive and positive, and I greatly appreciate them. It's the biggest treat of doing this. So thank you for everybody who's liked, subscribed, and commented and all those kinds of things on the videos. That brings us to the next thing too, because the 1,000 subscriber mark kind of brings back something we talked about a little bit on the previous video, which was the whole question of monetizing. And there's a couple ways I've been thinking about doing it, with the overall goal really of not losing money, not losing so much money. If you would. I don't have any, I do this because it's fun, right? I like to do these things. I like to make these kinds of things. But I have noticed that the expenses kind of run up, and like even just like a light bulb went out the other day in one of the soft boxes, and it's like 35 bucks for a pair of bulbs. And so you're like, okay, I'll just get that. You know, I want to make a track for the Wargaming table out of aluminum rails, kind of like Stuka Joe has, because I'm constantly dropping these tripods with cameras on them and stuff like that. It's just a mess and wires all over the place. So he's got a really slick setup, and I want to make one of those. It's like 250 bucks to get that aluminum stuff like that. Likewise, making the Wargaming table big enough to be able to shoot stuff on it, it's like a $150 project and stuff like that. So I'm not complaining, of course, but like after a while, it kind of adds up, and it'd be like, yeah, it'd be nice to not be losing so much money doing this kind of thing. So the goal really is to kind of so could you conceivably break even on it, kind of thing like that. And with that in mind, I've got two things. I did turn on ads on the channel. They're skippable. They're at the front, and you can hop over them and all the kinds of things like that. And the reason I did that actually was because I watch a number of channels myself, and I watch a number of channels that are below 1,000 subscribers because they make really cool stuff. And what I've noticed is when I'm on my phone or on my iPad where I don't have ad blocking on, when I go to those channels, there's ads there now. So YouTube's putting ads on channels like that anyway. So I figure I might as well add them for this one. So, and I think it might add up. I'm not sure how much it's going to add up to. It looks like maybe like $50 a month or something like that. So that's kind of like a start to it. That's going to be a super big help or something like that. But I did get stuck. It's kind of a funny story in that sad, tragic train wreck kind of a way, but I did get stuck in AdSense ID verification hell. It took like 3 weeks. The only way I finally solved it was by breaking it, so that they got so frustrated with me that they said, you're trying to verify your identification too much. And so we're like freezing your account and not letting you try to verify it anymore. That allowed me to break the hold on the account, which allowed me to delete the account and start a new one that actually worked. It's a super long story. I can tell you about it some other time. But anyway, AdSense is up, and they're working and stuff like that. And skippable at the beginning. It's the only thing I'm going to do. I don't want to put them in the middle. I find those super annoying because you're watching the video focused, and then boom, but the YouTube breaks are just crazy places. And I find it so jarring and distracting and stuff like that. So skippable at the beginning. I'm going to leave them at that and then just see how that does. And then the next thing I am thinking of on doing, and I want to start it up in January for kind of US tax purposes, is to start a Patreon page. And so I think I'm going to do that. And I have to figure out kind of the levels and stuff like that. I'll bring more information at the January update. A few people have asked about it. And at this point, I'm just going to say, yeah, I've got one, but I'm not putting it out there because I want to kind of sort out some of the details and stuff like that. But I did want to say a huge thank you to Dave T, or David, as I call him usually, on our U-Boat series. Our first subscriber. I created a Ko-Fi page or something like that a while ago, and just kind of put the link in a couple of videos, and he went and he subscribed and supports the channel that way. So he is officially our very first subscriber before the official launch of the Patreon page. So thank you very much to David for his kind contribution. It was a really cool surprise to wake up to a little while ago. I would ask too, if people were thinking about doing that, to hold off on till the Patreon page starts up, because I did notice that Ko-Fi sends the money to PayPal, and PayPal is like, yeah, thank you. And they take like a pretty big cut out of it. And I think Patreon, the money can go, it's a less expensive route to get the money out of Patreon. So I'm going to set that up in January, and I'll let people know and things like that. But again, thank you to David for his very kind subscription. Was a huge and very pleasant subscription. I greatly appreciate it. So, and that I think is everything about like how the channel has been doing behind the scenes, what I'm thinking to do with monetization and stuff like that going forward, and where we are with those kinds of things. So let's shift in now to the content. And I do have some questions I'd like to ask people as we get to the end of it. So pretty much since June, what I'd been doing is kind of a cycle of 3 games. Football Manager Walkabout Europe series, and then some kind of a war game series. And then the last one is Euro Truck Simulator, American Truck Simulator, on kind of an alternating frequency. So I do this kind of 3 alternate. I make one episode of American Truck Simulator or Euro Truck Simulator, then make a war game episode, then make a Football Manager episode. Well, of course, about a month ago, the Adventures with Football Manager ended. Less than a month ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Adventures with Football Manager ended, and the Walkabout Europe series ended with us winning the Premier League with Tottenham, which was really cool. But that series is done now. So that puts a hole in that 3-way schedule, and that one's finished up. But then also, for the last 2 months, pretty much have been doing the Hunters, which is the U-Boat simulation for a war game simulation. And of course, I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say that ended a little while ago, like a week and a half ago. So that kind of knocked that one out. And that leaves for the moment like American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator. Now I have a lot of other little wargaming scenarios and episodes I can make. I have a Captain C tutorial that I'm working on for a review copy of that game, some unboxing, and then the shelf tour stuff that we've been doing, which has been really fun to do. But I do want to get back into starting a new series with one of those games. So that's kind of what we've been doing for the last like 6 months, 4 months, 3 months, and stuff like that. And the question is now what to do going forward. And here's my thoughts. So I definitely want to keep up doing Euro Truck Simulator, American Truck Simulator. The funny thing I was thinking about that the other day is that they're 2 kind of like almost like we could say polar opposite series, right? So it's the board wargaming and then Euro Truck Simulator, American Truck Simulator. They're almost like exactly opposite games. And maybe that's why I've really come to like both of them. Because one of the things, I mentioned it a little bit, but one of the things about kind of doing videos for board games is that it's a huge cognitive load. You've got a lot of war games have 20, 30, or sometimes even bigger rule books, and you're trying to hold those rules in your head and play the game. That's hard enough, right? And with a board game too, you have to remember all the rules. So if you're playing like a war game or some kind of a strategy game on a PC, it's not going to let you make rules mistakes. You won't be able to move something where you can't move it. The game's just going to say, dude, you can't put it there, and it's going to send it back to where it was. But with a board game, you can just move stuff all over the place. The rules don't care. You have to be the one that enforces all that movement and the mistakes and stuff like that. So you're holding this rule set in your head. If you're playing a solitaire game, you're playing against the AI and you're trying to execute that. If you're playing a 2-player game, you're trying to think of the strategies of both players, what they would do, hold the rules in your head, and then you're trying to make a video. So it means you got to like talk about what you're doing in addition to thinking about doing it while keeping all the rules in your head and making sure that the camera's set up. So it takes a lot of brain space that's kind of a precious resource for me. And then with the American Truck Simulator or Euro Truck Simulator, it's the exact opposite. I just kind of chill and drive and I can talk and it's just low key. And so I feel like they both kind of serve purposes. Like I really like the challenge of making board wargaming videos. And I really like the chilled out nature of just kind of driving and getting into game zen and going along. So I just feel like it's really interesting that both of those are opposites. But I have gotten totally distracted, as always, with this. Let's go back to the point at hand, which was what to do going forward. Well, I want to do American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator. I want to keep those going, of course, because they're fun. I like them, and people seem to really like watching them and stuff like that. So that's like a win-win-win. I've got a lot of ideas. I want to drift a little more into kind of the tutorial content, like we did for the snow mod episode, where I do a little tutorial at the beginning and then do a drive that shows that tutorial segment or piece in action. I've got a bunch of ideas, for things like that. So I'm really excited about that. Then comes the question of Football Manager. Now, that's not a simple question, right? Because I've been doing Football Manager for about like a year and a half or so. And my initial plan was to jump right into Football Manager 22. But what I realized when I got to the end of Walkabout Europe was that it was 80 episodes. I've been playing Football Manager for about a year and a half straight. And I think Football Manager is kind of like chocolate chip cookies. I'm not sick of it at all, but I've been eating chocolate chip cookies for like a year and a half. And I feel like, wow, I kind of need to let that battery recharge a little bit so that the chocolate chip cookies are really fresh and tasty again. So I want to take a little bit of a break. But one of my concerns with taking a break from Football Manager was that the new Football Manager game just got released. But one of the things I've noticed with it is that the views seem to be consistent for the lower end level, and I would put myself in that category, right? The smaller creators, not lower is not the right word for it. The smaller creators of Football Manager content. The views have either been kind of the same or significantly less than they were last year. I mean, it makes sense, right? Last year, Europe was kind of in the middle of lockdown. England was in the middle of lockdown. That's not the case right now. People are out and about and kind of doing things. And there's also a lot more creators. There's tons more Football Manager creators. And the larger creators seem to be getting more of that view share for whatever reason. Maybe it's YouTube algorithms and quality, all those kinds of things. But it just really seems like that kind of tier that I was operating in with a lot of other people has really been hard hit for views. So that kind of fear of missing out that I was getting is kind of compensated a little bit for like, wow, it seems like it's been kind of a rough start for that small to mid-level YouTube creator for Football Manager. And I'm thinking that means for me, what I want to do then, long story short, again, I babble too much, but long story short is I think I want to wait until maybe the February update before I jump back in with Football Manager. And I have some ideas I really want to try with series, but I think that would be good to wait a little bit. Maybe January, Football Manager, maybe 3 weeks or something like that. And that brings the question of what to fill that gap with. And that's where I am very open to ideas. I know I've talked on the channel before about trying things like Crusader Kings, Hearts of Iron, maybe another strategy game on the PC, maybe a little bit more war game content, but it's going to be hard to do that in the next month or so because our kids are going to be home from college and the space where I shoot war games is out in the open. So I think that kind of 1/3 of board gaming war game content to 40% or so is probably what I can maintain for the next month or so. So I'm thinking I kind of need to find something on the PC to do. The question is what? Maybe a different sports sim that could last like a month or something like that. So I'm not really sure. So I'd love to hear your tips, ideas on games we can play, things that you think would be interesting. I've been thinking of something like SnowRunner, but that's kind of the same category as Euro Truck Simulator, American Truck Simulator. But I definitely want to try some new things, right? I think any channel has got to be a blend of constant stuff, consistent stuff, and then kind of folding in this new content to bring in new people and keep things fresh. So hopefully we'll have kind of some base series like Football Manager, Euro Truck Simulator, American Truck Simulator, and War Games, and then weave in these other things as we go forward. So I'd love to hear your ideas, what we can do for like a month and a half, 2 months as a series to kind of fill that gap before we slide back into Football Manager. That also begins the question of what to do for the next War Games series. Been thinking of a few things, maybe Absolute War. I was thinking that as a nice 2-player game, but I'd like to take some more ideas for that too. And I feel like the range of things we could make is a little bit bigger there. So if you have ideas on the War Game series, I'd like to hear that too. And lastly, I have one more idea on the Wargaming board content that I would love to pose to people, which I had an idea. So I really like doing the Hunters series, right? And I want to do a different game. but I really liked doing the Hunters series. And people seem to really like it too. There are a number of people that said like, wow, they really get used to the episodes. It was sad to see it go and stuff like that. Well, I have 3 other games in the war game, the U-boat series, the submarine series, if you would. One's called The Hunters, which is the rest of the Hunted, which is the extension of the Hunters. Another one's called Silent Victory, about the U.S. submarines in the Pacific campaign. And another one is Beneath the Med, talking about Italian submarines in the Mediterranean in World War II. So my thought was, would it make sense to do kind of a Submarine Monday and just start with one of those games? I'd probably go to Silent Victory next, and then just play until our sub blows up and we die, kind of thing, and the game's over, and then shift to the next game. So it would be kind of a slow burn and just release them once a week every Monday. But with 3 games, if we play them all until we sink, if we got like 8 to 10 episodes per game, that could be a good 4 or 5 months of kind of 20 episodes scattered out there. So let me know what you think about Submarine Mondays. If you have ideas for war games, if you have ideas for something we can do, maybe PC strategy or something like that for the next couple months to fill in that gap between this and Football Manager's kind of the Football Manager hibernation, if you would. And then ideas as well for episodes you'd like to see on American Truck Simulator, Euro Truck Simulator, or games you'd even like us just take a look at. I'm really kind of rethinking what we can fold into the content on the channel over the next couple of months, keeping that theme of sports simulation, which I like, strategy games, which I like, tabletop war games, which I'm just enjoying so much and really want to keep doing that. And then truck simulation, Euro Truck Simulator, American Truck Simulator. So here's your chance. Drop them down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Comments, ideas, feedback on anything else that you've heard in here would be greatly appreciated. Again, thank you so much for the support. And if you do celebrate the holidays, I hope you have a fantastic holiday. I'm looking forward. I don't think I'm going to take a break over the holidays. There might be some days where family stuff is going on and I can't really do too much for a day or two. But I think actually I've got a break from work for about 14 days in there. So I think I'm going to try to really kind of crank out some content during that time and play some games and bring some more stuff to the channel, and maybe even 1 or perhaps even 2 episodes a day over the break time over the course kind of mid-December to the first week of January. So, and then we'll be back in January. I hope you get the Patreon page set up then. We'll be back in the middle of January for the next kind of January update and things like that. So that's quite a ramble. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, ideas, everything's accepted. Thanks so much. Have a great holidays, everybody, and we'll see you on the channel. Take care. Bye.